Welcome to the SoulLife Psychology Podcast. I'm Dr. Tony Riley. I'm the founder of SoulLife Psychology. It's a metaphysical approach to emotional, physical, and mental health and healing. And if you've ever felt like life doesn't quite make sense, hopefully this episode's going to help you feel differently about that. And I'm really happy you're here for the launch of this podcast, and it happens to be my birthday, which felt like the most fitting day to launch a podcast featuring my life's work. This podcast exists to help you to understand yourself at a deeper level through the lens of your soul's wisdom and the human experience. The episodes will be focused sometimes they're educational, others will be conversational and exploratory, sometimes featuring really cool guests. Sometimes I'll speak freely off the cuff, and sometimes I'll add some salt and pepper. Sometimes I get a bit sweary. Some episodes will be short and others will be longer. It just depends what I'm talking about or who I'm talking to. Every episode, however, is designed to offer insights for you to integrate into your own life. I wrote my book, Awake, The Purpose of Life and Why You're Here, so we will definitely be exploring the purpose of life, your purpose of life. I have so much to share with you, and I won't gatekeep my discoveries. You're going to hear confidential case studies from my files involving past lives, reincarnation, some phenomenal healings. You'll also learn through our life map system how your life mission is outlined before you were born. Destiny is real. We'll explore metaphysics, how your emotions show up through your body. And I will talk openly about my own stuff, healing, grief, and connection to the afterlife. This life does not end when we die. We can learn a new language to communicate with loved ones who have. Knowing all of this changes how you live today, and, drum roll, you will come to understand that your greatest alliance here on earth is your intuition. In this first episode, I want to take you back to the beginning of why SoulLife Psychology exists. If you're listening, you're meant to be here. Let's get started. We may as well start at the start. Nearly 30 years ago, my awakening began when I became obsessed with not harming my children emotionally. They were babies. That obsession led me to astrology. Serendipitously, it helped me understand that I was wired very differently to my kids. I had 2 at that time and was due to have my 3rd, and I'm an air sign. They were water signs. So was my husband. One day while I was doing the groceries, a paperback book caught my eye on a stand outside a news agency, and it listed each astrology sun sign with positive traits and challenging ones. Well, I loved the positive ones. I felt seen for the very first time. It was me in a list. But the negative ones, I did not like them. And I remember thinking, I'm not like that. Then something happened. Over the coming days and weeks even, memories started to surface of times where I had done things that fitted with what was listed, and I was shocked. I loathed the trait that it mentioned. But anyway, I couldn't be in denial because I had done it at least once. From there, my interest in people's inherent character just grew. I started researching my kids and my family, even strangers. I asked everyone their star sign, and I could see the patterns. I could see who gelled together, who didn't, and it all fascinated me. So my story starts around here, or towards SoulLife Psychology at least. My story really came to life when I separated in my marriage. It was quite some time after my discovery of astrology, maybe even 10 years after, or 8 years after. But at the time when I separated, it was such a huge decision to make, and it was really quite devastating, but at the same time liberating. And throughout the episodes, I will tell you more details about everything. But for now, I don't want to make this episode too long, but my awakening began with my separation, which of course led to divorce. It was so big, and what it did was it sent me soul searching. The other thing it did was I became aware, actually again, or I had a name for this ability I had, which was intuition. So I went on a mission to find out about intuition and psychic development, because I had been told that I had these capacities or this ability. I found a meditation group, never meditated before, never really even thought about intuition or knew what it was, but I found this meditation group and it was just phenomenal. I could see and hear with my inner senses, and that was intriguing. But the side effect of meditating was I realized that I was a bit messy. I was a bit fucked up. And what I mean by that is my self-worth wasn't high, and I just had no idea, never even heard of self-worth. But anyway, these things kept revealing, and that intrigued me as well. So I suppose this was also the birth of self-awareness or awareness, and it never went back from there. My meditation teacher, who I consider an everyday woman, she was wonderful, and so were the girls that were sitting in the circle or the development group with me. But she told me to read Many Lives, Many Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss, and that book, I never really heard of past lives before, nor thought about them. But when I read that book, it was like, what? It felt so right, and not weird, not out there, not new age. It was just like, it gave me this sensation of, I know why I'm here, which is even weird at that time in itself, but the feeling was extraordinary. So I knew what I was here to do, let's say, and what happened there was I had these foundations that I was developing, and they were basically intuition, self-awareness, and then we had this past life aspect, which I came to know the reason that Mary, my meditation teacher, told me to read Many Lives, Many Masters was because she could do past life regression. So of course I read the book and I just had to do it. And I went to her and I said, who can I get? Oh no, not even who. I had thought to myself, I must go to the States, I'm Australian, and have a past life session with Dr. Brian Weiss. Of course, by that time, he wasn't doing that. This is nearly 20 years ago now, but maybe more than 20. But anyway, I go to Mary, how can I have this done, this past life regression? And she said, I know how to do it. So within a couple of days, I was in her living room on the sofa being regressed. And wow. From that moment forward, one of the pivotal things that happened for me was, the first thing is I could see, I could feel, I had a lot of emotion in my session, but I knew that I was not making that up. It was not imagination. The thoughts and the feelings and the scenes, they just dropped in, and it was so incredible. Of course, the other thing that this past life regression had done for me was it healed a few things that I'd asked about. I will go into a lot of detail in the coming episodes because we're going to talk about all of the therapeutic value of exploring your past lives. But for now, just know it fixed some key things for me. I'll tell you real quick. One of them was I could not speak in public. I couldn't speak in front of people. I couldn't have people watching me write. And I was in my 30s and thinking, why am I in my 30s and I don't know I'm intuitive? So those were the three things that I asked about. And of course, they were all answered. Not only were they answered, I came out, couldn't shut me up. I had to be writing things and speaking in public, as it turned out. And here we are now, 20 years later. So that was the very start or the foundations of developing SoulLife Psychology. So past life regression was a huge foundation of it. And it wasn't about dwelling in the past. When people went back there, they understood what was going on now. So it was always to make this life better, and it was extraordinary. So also what I came to realize in my extensive research and observation of working with people in this manner was when you're working in past lives, you're working directly with that person's soul who knows exactly why they're here. So hence, SoulLife Psychology came about. And let me continue after that bit of a sporadic insight into my initial story. But I do have so many personal stories that I will share from my life. I want to be an open book for you. This journey or mission as I see it and have experienced it has been down to earth and miraculous. And I've experienced love at first sight, grief, depression, and everything in between. So I wrote Awake to express my discoveries about the purpose of life and why we're here in real life terms. And on this podcast, you're going to hear how my experiences weaved into the development of SoulLife Psychology and indeed the development of myself. So mainstream therapies didn't answer the big questions about life and death. They didn't take into account that our lives are destined, or that we have inner senses beyond our physical senses like sight and hearing and touch. People who were intuitive, psychic, or mediumistic were labelled as mentally unwell. I saw many clients who this had happened to, or they were dismissed because Western medicine didn't know what was going on with them. So they would label them. And people didn't seem to know why they were here. They didn't understand the bigger picture. Well, some did, but most were caught up in life, which of course is fine when everything's smooth. It mattered when life got messy. And some people were caught up in the drama of life. Some were suffering in grief. Some felt traumatized by their circumstances, and rightly so, given what humans endure. But others were indoctrinated by religion. They might have been fearful or righteous. Some were scarring their children by forcing them to be something that they were not inherently wired to be. And I could go on, and I probably will. That's why I started the podcast, so I can share all this information with you. Hopefully in a way that you can relate to your own experiences and circumstances so they make sense. Anyway, this is where SoulLife Psychology actually began to take shape. It exists because people aren't broken. They're just unfinished. And I saw a gap. Sensitive, intuitive, maybe conscious people were doing inner work and still feeling confused and isolated and misunderstood. And traditional psychology did not fully speak to their experience. Spiritual spaces and the New Age movement often lacked personal responsibility, and really some of it was just too fluffy, and I wanted to reach everyday people and they were not interested in New Age language. It made them roll their eyes. I knew that there had to be a bridge, and the bridge became SoulLife Psychology. So my work has always been about helping people value themselves so that they can live and work with purpose and find their own personal freedom. Not by fixing themselves, just by understanding themselves better. I've guided thousands of clients and students all over the world using intuitive and practical approach that integrates psychology, metaphysics, and emotional experience. And I didn't create this work from theory, I created it from life. The journey of becoming conscious is liberating, but it also can be very isolating. And I've lived with the reality of conscious entrepreneurship, the intolerance, the misunderstanding, the confusion, the financial instability, the feast and famine cycles, the pressure of holding a long-range vision where there wasn't immediate proof that it would work. But I kept going anyway. The compulsion was constant. SoulLife Psychology isn't a short-term strategy. It's a long-range vision, and it's designed to support our new, more feeling generations. And that's the young people born since the year 2000 across the planet. So people who are intuitive, sensitive, emotionally aware, and tired of being told they're too much, our future leaders, parents, visionaries, those born to change how humanity understands itself. I formalised this work so that it could stand out in the world. SoulLife Psychology and Recall Therapy, which is my past life regression modality, are internationally certified and accredited with the International Institute of Complementary Therapists, and graduates can practice legally and obtain insurance. This mattered to me. This work needed integrity and structure, allowing the space for students and clients to remember who they are. Now let me talk about why this matters to you. You're here for one reason. We all are, to experience life. And life is messy. It's also amazing, and it's wonderful too. The simple pleasures matter. I used to think people were complex and impossible to fully understand, and I later realized that was because I felt complex and didn't understand myself. That realization changed everything, and it's why I wrote Awake. My book came from revelations, not philosophy. One of the most confronting things that I learned is that every single person is messy in some way. I'll expand on that later, but nobody's exempt. No amount of status, no amount of love that's in their life, no amount of money that's there or not saves people from feeling in life. We all are going to get messy. Emotional experiences are the point. They are the purpose of the human existence. They are the curriculum in the school of life. This is where I want to pause and say this. I learned very early that it was safer to be easygoing. This is my stuff. Not demanding, not complicated. I could sense tension before anyone spoke, and I knew when something was off, but I learned that saying it made people uncomfortable. So I adapted. I stayed pleasant. I stayed agreeable as a survival mechanism. And you'll have no doubt some sort of experience similar to this, which kind of forms your default behavior. We'll go into this later, but I'm a bit of a people-pleasing person, but there's other things that we default to other than that. Anyway, eventually I stopped trusting that intuition that was there, those senses. But working in this certainly helped me to start trusting again. Implicitly, actually. Now, if you are thinking you're not messy, that's okay. I didn't think I was either, but you only understand messiness in hindsight and why it's there in the first place. So first-hand experience is the teacher. Messiness shows up through emotional blows, like big things like divorce, grief, loss, depression, health scares. The moments that strip you back and force you to question who you are and why you're here. Please know, there is no crime in being messy. In fact, awareness of your mess is the beginning of wisdom and healing. The moment you admit that you have insecurities, patterns, fears, trauma, or wounds, they already have less power over you. This is what I call stuff. Stuff is insecurities. It's shame, it's fear of rejection, it's trust issues, self-criticism, worthiness wounds, avoidance. It's attention seeking. Emotional bruises like abandonment, humiliation, betrayal, and injustice. Everybody has some version of these It's called being human. In SoulLife Psychology, I don't call this brokenness. I call it potential. Potential can move in any direction. You can live it unconsciously and repeat patterns, or you can evolve through it, and you do. There is no right or wrong, only awareness. Awareness is what changes your perspective. When you understand why something affects you, it loses its grip. You start to respond differently, and life becomes less reactive, less exhausting. That's why I say, own your stuff so it stops owning you. This work teaches you how to understand your energy, what's yours, what you absorb from others, how your early emotional experiences shaped your reactions, how your intuition actually works, not as imagination, as a legit embodied skill. When you understand how you are wired, you stop trying to be someone else. You stop blaming, you stop projecting. You default to responsibility instead of reactivity. Self-awareness is not self-obsession, it's personal responsibility. Let's talk about awakening. Awakening can be subtle, or it can feel like a steamroller bulldozed you over. I call it soul searching. It begins with curiosity and a compulsion to look deeper. It's like a feeling that you just can't ignore anymore. And it sounds something like this, thoughts in your head. I want to understand myself. There has to be more than this. Or I'm tired of carrying this alone. Or I'm over being on my own. Or I feel like something is calling me. Awakening has nothing to do with having everything figured out. It just means that you're listening differently now. You're listening to your inner guidance. That's your intuition. And once that awareness opens, it doesn't close again. Your life begins to change direction. You start noticing yourself and your reactions, and you start noticing the patterns that you repeat, and this becomes part of who you're becoming. This stage usually arrives through transition and very often through forced change. One of the most common examples of forced change is grief. Now, grief isn't just about death. It's the emotional response to loss or change that means something will never be the same again. With grief, people automatically look at death. So it could be death. It can be a relationship ending, a change in circumstances. The intensity takes you by surprise because it's often the very first time that you realize these feelings are not within your control. They're deep, they're guttural, and they're devastating, and you cannot stop it. It's happening and you're feeling it. The grieving process becomes the foundation of one of the most important experiences of your life. In fact, I believe it is the most important experience. It's hard, it's freaking hard. And for many people, it's the very first time they question life and start asking, why? Why did this happen to me? Why me? Let's talk about why we're here. Your soul came here to experience life through emotion, love and loss, connection and separation, through joy and fear and purpose, to find meaning. Your life mission isn't about achieving something impressive. This shocks people. It's not a destination or a goal that you meet. Your purpose is lived every single day. It's all about understanding the emotional experiences you're here to grow through and learning to express who you are without fear. Every experience contributes and nothing is wasted. You usually only realize this in hindsight though, and it doesn't offer comfort while you're living through a process. I know it doesn't. But these experiences are what bring depth and wisdom to who you are becoming. Let's talk about the soul life view of life. Throughout this season on the podcast, you'll hear one idea return again and again, and that is that your soul chose this life. You chose your parents, your relationships, your sensitivities, your body, your challenges, and the timing of everything. Nothing is random. When you understand this, you stop fighting life and start to work with it. why you feel called. If you're listening to this podcast, something inside you is already awake. You are seeking something. Maybe it's clarity or connection. Maybe it's emotional freedom. Maybe you don't even know what it is yet. Maybe it's peace or meaning. The feeling of being called isn't random. It's guidance from your soul. You're soul searching. In the podcast, I'll be sharing the Soul Life approach to understanding yourself, to unraveling who you really are, and each episode is designed to leave you a bit clearer. You don't have to try. You don't have to get anything right. No pressure. Awareness happens naturally when something feels true to you. I promise you, some of the insights that you hear will resonate, and some of them will even set off an epiphany for you. I developed SoulLife Psychology from more than 20 years of working with clients and students and observing people. And every time I saw the same thing. When people understood the soul perspective, any chaos in their lives dissolved. They didn't feel broken anymore. They felt seen. And that's what this podcast is for. Every episode ends with something practical. This week, I want you just to take notice of one thing. Where do you feel pulled or called? It might show up as curiosity or restlessness or frustration or sadness or a desire for clarity. Whatever it is, that's your awakening speaking. Before we finish, I want to introduce a segment that we'll do each week. I want to answer a question from you. So if something in this episode stirred a thought or curiosity, you can send your question or even share an experience using the link in the show notes. I will choose one or two to explore in future episodes. Now, we're done for this episode, so thank you so much for being here. And if this work resonates with you, please subscribe and stay connected. I'll be back with another episode soon. Awareness is the ultimate activism.